with the critical situation that our planet is in as North America experiences what they call a heat dome. Siberia is experiencing a heat dome of temperatures centigrade of 40, 50, 55 degrees. That's 110, 20, 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Simultaneously, in the southern hemisphere, in Argentina and Brazil, Chile, they're experiencing record-breaking cold. It's winter in the southern hemisphere. There's even a cyclone that's appearing off the coast of Brazil that has never been seen before during the month of June. So the world is really struggling. And one of the facts that's emerging about the accumulating number of deaths that are occurring in North America is drawn from research that they did back in 2003, if you remember, when a massive heat wave swept over Europe and tens of thousands of people died in Paris and Madrid and Rome and London. And what they discovered is that one of the reasons why that happened is because the trees in the cities and surrounding the cities inverted at high temperatures above about 45 degrees centigrade. The trees stop emitting oxygen. They contract and they emit carbon dioxide. And so that's what was killing so many people, particularly the elderly and the infirm, is they couldn't get enough oxygen. And that same situation is now beginning to take shape, particularly over Canada and parts of the central west of the United States. So I just wanted, as we open today, to be cognizant that there are people in the humanity rising community that right now are suffering starkly as temperatures rise to unbearable levels for human existence. It's also the best of times. Today, we are going to celebrate the 90th birthday of Stan Grof, one of the great world treasures of our time. And as you all know, we've been celebrating Stan since January, as one day every month we've brought people from his life and his career and his family to really salute and acknowledge one of the great intelligences, one of the great souls of our time. So we'll be dedicating our program to those aspects in our very complicated existence right now that remind us of the nobility of what it means to be human. But let us start, as we always do, with just a moment, just to pause, gather ourselves, maybe take a deep breath, and gather yourself in your body. Close your eyes and place your attention on your heart. And for the next minute or so, attune yourself with your heartbeat in a spirit of gratitude and deep thanksgiving that you're alive. We're all alive at this most extraordinary moment in the human journey. Thank you, everyone. And now, with an open heart and a heart full of gratitude and love for each and every one of you who are joining our session today, I want to commence our program by emphasizing the importance of contemplating our human potential in times such as ours when turbulence abounds. The pandemic is still with us. It's very important to pause and celebrate life as we know it. And in this particular case, to celebrate a single life that has exemplified the virtues that all of us admire and has demonstrated the capacity to live the good life over time. It's one thing to have an episode of excellence and then to succumb to mediocrity. It's a completely different thing to sustain excellence, compassion, creativity, and innovation at the frontiers of human consciousness for 90 years. So today we're celebrating the 90th birthday of Stan Grof. And I just want to say to all of you, as someone who's had the privilege of knowing Stan, I believe we met in 1985, as a man that I've admired and loved from the day I met him. And so to be able to mobilize Ubiquity University and Humanity Rising to celebrate this great soul gives me intense pleasure. And I would like to now introduce Susan Hess Logee. You all know, award-winning director and producer who really was the instigator of this celebration, having done a documentary film on Stan, the voyage of the Psychonaut. So I really want to thank Susan for everything she's done month by month to pull these sessions together in this tribute to a great soul. Susan, welcome. And thank you. Thank you very much for all you've done.
Oh, Jim, I want to thank you. This has really been an amazing opportunity. It was 7 years that I spent working with Stan and his wife, Brigitte, to create this documentary, The Way of the Psychonaut. But it was really during the 6 monthly tributes that I had a chance to learn so much more, because Stan and Brigitte both, it was a dialogue actually between many of the visionaries that were part of our documentary. They joined us for these sessions. And so it's just an amazing opportunity to get even more information out to the general public and for myself. So I thank you. And I just want to tell everybody who's joining us today that you can find the movie, The Way of the Psychonaut, through the website of the same name, thewayofthepsychonaut.com. And I've also put together a series of links that will bring people to each of the sessions that we recorded with Humanity Rising. So they're direct links to all of those sessions on our landing page. And you can also find Stan's book, The Way of the Psychonaut, Volumes 1 and 2, which is an amazing culmination of all of his research and discoveries over the course of his 60-plus year career. And so, but today is different. This fall, of course, there'll be something called if I can pronounce it correctly, a Festschrift, or a collection of essays from some remarkable scholars and visionaries across a scope of perspectives that it will be honoring Stan. But today, our focus is on Stan, a more personal tribute from two people who know him and love him. His brother, Paul, who reflects on their long and loving relationship, and Brigitte, Stan's wife. And she will share stories and photos from their 35-year relationship that has culminated in marriage some 6 years ago. So I don't want to waste any more time and say welcome, Stan and Brigitte. It's so lovely to see you here today.
Thank you very much. Jim and Susan and Rick and Matt. You have really ongoing celebration, you know, since the 1st of January until now, this day of birthday. And I came in a great mood today. We had wonderful, wonderful day, beautiful massage. And then I knew that I was coming now with Paul and Brigitte, who certainly are, you know, the closest people in this world for me. So I was very excited. And then on top of it, I found out that two of them in secret, they created this amazing book that I didn't know about. And I'm almost difficult to go away from it and read.
You want to show it?
I know. Maybe would you like to show it? Yeah,
Yeah, I can.
Is that okay? Yeah. It's amazing. It's in Germany at this point because my great friends in Switzerland, the Psychonaut Verlag, created also, you know, in basically in their own, amazing.
So
she says that it's going to happen in some other translations
in all languages. We want this, and it's I have to say, this is an interview I did with Stan about his work and life. I mean, his life's work. And so for the 60 years of LSD research, how he started and where he is now. So this is the only time this is really written that way, and he really loves that interview, and it was his deepest wish to have it published. So I just thought, let's do it, you know. And he also likes the combination with the foreword. He was writing for Albert Hoffman's LSD, My Problem Child. So I put them both together, and I added a lot of photos and of Stan and you know, and of us, and of the travels and seminars. And I invited all his friends and co-travelers to write beautiful birthday wishes from their hearts, and they all did that. And also, since this is a German speaking edition, our German teachers and friends, and so it's a total treasure. And you're so in love with this book, aren't you? So.
And Susan, in a way, it's actually a continuation of what you have been doing in the film, and then you this interviews, you know, with these people who were always in the film, and now in this book that Paul and Brigitte and my friends from Switzerland created. They had at least 1 page or 2 of all these transpersonal friends. So it's just an amazing.
Yeah, just so happy. Thank you so much again, Paul, for helping create this book, and from Roger, Markus, Chris, and Jutta, Nina, Agnes from Nachtschatten Verlag. You really, this book is made of love. I have to say, I called them and said, would you like to help me with this book? And they said yes, you know, and they didn't have any time, and they do this for free. And we worked day and night, and within 2 months we created this incredible book. And it's really out of love for Stan. And
there's always a lot of secrecy, you know, I never knew what was happening.
It was very hard not to tell him, because we don't have any secrets, but I always wanted to find out what he wants, you know. So it was just I'm so happy it's there now today, and we really want this in all the languages to go around the world, because that's really who he is. So
anyway, so I will do now, you know, what I always did in this every month. For people who have not heard this, that about 2.5 years ago I had a stroke. I didn't had paralysis, you know. I think I didn't damage my mind, but certainly damaged very much my speech. And so you will see that at some point I might be struggling for words, and it's great that Brigitte is here, and she will know as much of the things that I will be talking about, and she will help me. So thank you much.
I would also share, before we do our program, share a story from this morning. I was singing to Stan, "Happy birthday to you," was singing. And he was singing too. He singing "Happy birthday to you." And I said, "Well, but this is your birthday." And he said, "No, this is our birthday." And I said, "Well, why is this our birthday?" You want to say what?
We've experienced like one soul, so we are that's 45.
We are two parts. We are two parts of one soul. This is why it's also my birthday. And then I said, "Oh, this is great, So we're each 45 years old."
Anyway,
together is 90. So that was the start in the morning.
So unfortunately, I guess with so much great mood, and then I heard what Jim said. What suddenly is happening, worse than it was before. And it's very difficult to celebrate for that.
Well, Stan, I think you bring into the public realm the idea of transpersonal dimensional consciousness. And if anything's going to save us, that's it. So I am very grateful because the deep inner work through whether it's holotropic breathwork or psychedelic experiences, we have the opportunity to encounter ourselves as spirit. And I think that's, a really important thing for humanity to be considering right now is that. So, but let's focus on you today. And so I'm going to introduce your brother, Paul, because he's going to first share some stories and images from your growing up together. And so Paul Grof, Stan's brother, is a Canadian research psychiatrist, clinician, and administrator. Dr. Grof has been involved in transpersonal activities since 1962 and utilized holotropic breathwork with major depressions and bipolar disorders. Presently, he is a professor of psychiatry at the University of Toronto and director of Ottawa Mood Disorders Center. He's also authored and co-authored over 500 publications and 3 books. Welcome, Paul, and I'm turning it over to you.
Well, I have to share, I guess. Let me start the video, the slides. Is it there?
Yeah, we can see it, Paul. Looks good.
Okay. Well, Stan, I'm just delighted to be among the first ones to wish you a very happy birthday. And of course, looking at the situation, you've just completed a magnus opus a few years ago, the way of Psychonaut. You've, with Brigitte, you just really restructured your program and created the Grof legacy. You're having very happy years with Brigitte. So the only thing I can really wish you and wish us is, of course, many happy, healthy years to come. And that's the only thing I would really want from the bottom of my heart. You've been such a special, wonderful brother and teacher, generous, giving, open. So it's been wonderful. And if after I leave this body, if I have some say in what should be happening in the next life, I'm going to ask for you again. I hope you excuse me. Well, now, I guess my task is to cover almost 85 years in the next 15 or so minutes. So all I can do is, I guess, show a few bits and pieces of our life together. I think I should say a few words about my parents, because they have played a very important role in this. Father really was a self-made man. He came from 11 children. It's a big family. They lived near a railway station. At the beginning of 20th century, I guess railway and airplanes were what internet is these days. And so the whole family, most of the family was really employed on one or the other. And so that's, and of course, coming out of this family, father had to make his own life. He became a chemist, engineer, a business executive. And mother was a concert pianist and quite accomplished in her childhood, actually quite accomplished painter as well. But unfortunately, because of two of us, I think she had very little time to perform, although she did. I often have my clients or patients complaining about the vicissitudes and difficulties of life, and I kind of chuckle inside when I think about it, when I think about the parents living through 2 world wars, living through a pandemic that killed about 50, 60 million people, living through Nazis, Russians, communism, and still managing to bring us up. And they have been very loving, caring parents. And, you know, through my life, I've now, some of my patients, of course, are not particularly young. And so I can see how the first years of life, the love, the caring really determines your image of the universe very, very heavily. So I'm very grateful for that. So let me see if I can get the slides going. This is, I guess, where it started. Parents getting married in the 1920s. There's an interesting story about this. Father, I guess it's been tradition in his family, and we followed it, that the people eventually choose their religion if they want some. So he did not have any religion, and this was a Catholic church. And of course, the Catholic Church was not willing to let him in, and it was important to do it because grandfather's small department store was just across the street. They just walked from the church across the street on the red carpets to the grandfather's store. So grandfather, I guess money has always played an important role in Catholic Church. So for sufficient amount of money, father was allowed to marry in the Catholic Church. And so
actually developed our relationship to religion, yeah?
Yes.
Both you and I, yeah.
Yeah, we both had an option. We were not, I don't think we were christened as far as I know. And we had a choice then to choose our religions, which sometimes took a long time to figure out. Now, just a few pictures from our childhood. Yeah, this is a particularly interesting story because in Central Europe, there is a custom around Easter time, and it has something to do, obviously, with the old fertility rites. The boys have to go out, and they have these special kind of ropes, kind of whipping or lashing ropes, and they are supposed to threaten the girls that unless they give them a nice, very nice colored eggs, they will get beaten. So that's so the mother dressed us up and took us out.
Well, I think another interesting thing was, of course, there were photographs, around, but when we were supposed to get film, it was always into a studio. It was not that is today. Then there's a lot of
That's
cameras,
right.
you know, and you can just pin hundreds of them and choose the best one. Whereas this was that you have to prepare really a special one into a studio. So
And you have to
we're not
pose.
very like, because we had to be, you know,
Stiff.
closed properly for that.
Yes, yeah. Well, I guess there was a period when mother thought that she really should have had a son and a daughter, and I guess I was the least resistant person to become the daughter in the family. And
But you don't look very happy, I have to say. Not a happy girl.
well, there were some challenges, of course, over those years. I think probably the worst year was when I had a polio, and shortly after I came out from the hospital, about 4 months later, the secret police appeared in the apartment and just ransacked it completely, all the way, and of course arrested Stan for alleged, anti-communist activities. And the funny part was when I was in the hospital, I got connected with one young man who really turned me onto Engels' philosophy. And so I bought several of the Engels books, and they were all published by the communists. They had big red 5-pointed star on it. And that was sitting on my desk. So of the old apartment that was completely ransacked, the agent did not dare to touch my desk where there was these books with 5-pointed red stars. And there was mother's private correspondence with some spiritual teachers. And that would have been a huge problem, because you can imagine what the secret police would read behind stories about kind of spiritual matters. They would have thought that this was some kind of codes.
We were looking for the left lane, yeah. Looking.
So it's a miracle, I think, that we both managed to, one after the other, get to the medical school in the communist regime. Stan was, of course, kicked out of the gymnasium of the high school as undesirable, and was transferred to another school that was considered kind of better politically oriented. The interesting tidbit is that it was school on so-called London Street in Prague, where he was actually born. There was also an obstetrics besides the school.
Across the street, yeah.
And there are, I think it's hard to believe, but in a way, everything is possible in the authoritarian regimes, like communist regimes, if you know the ways. What happened was the director of the school where Stan was transferred had a heart attack. And so nobody opened obviously for a long time, nobody opened the papers that came with Stan. So they did not know that he was kicked out of school. And he had, of course, outstanding marks. So they recommended him to medical school. And there were other reasons for their support. And this whole story about the jail only came out when Stan was already in the medical school for about, 9 months, a year. And of course, it would have been tremendous embarrassment for the dean to find out that so they had to let him study and continue. So that was quite an amazing story. Now, when Stan went to jail, they were allowed to have 2 books. And he asked mother for an English dictionary because he wanted to learn English, and for Shakespeare's collected works. I don't know where we got them at that time. Now, this had a lot of interesting implications later, because in the 60s, the travel, at least for the Westerners, to the communist country, certainly to Czechoslovakia, opened up. And the Americans particularly started coming and visiting the research institute where we were. And so there were a number of leading Americans. I remember Nathan Klein from New York. I remember Abe Hoffer came from Saskatchewan, Virginia Satir, a number of others. And so Stan, with his knowledge of English acquired in jail from Shakespeare, was the guide of these people. And they were always, of course, Prague has a lot of antiques, and there's a lot of connection with Shakespeare, various statues and scenes, because Shakespeare's works and the drama is very well known. And so Stan was guiding these people across Prague, and they were absolutely flabbergasted. This guy talking kind of a partly medieval English and giving them these explanations about all kinds of medieval arms, all these medieval helms and all the expressions of how do you unsheath the sword and the halapartness and all the medieval equipment of. So they were absolutely puzzled where the Czech who was never outside of the country, how he talked about these medieval British things. And there were the other story I remember vividly was that the young girls were the Americans often brought their family, and so several young girls came, daughters and friends of daughters came with them. And they were quite embarrassed at times because there was a big powder tower that in Prague, and there was a story from medieval times that if you were a virgin, you had to see all the 5 kingfishers. Now the trick was that the 5th kingfisher was actually hidden on the rear of the tower, so it caused kind of embarrassment for the young girls that they could not figure out the 5 kingfisher. So lots of kind of interesting stories that come back. Now, the other thing I could say briefly, if I manage. Yeah, Stan always played a role of savior of his younger brother, and there was quite a few stories about that. One that stands up in my mind is this was during the war, must have been 1942, 43. There was good skiing in Prague on the outskirts, and so we went to ski. And there were also Nazi soldiers skiing all the way to the top of the slope. And they had these special war skis with very sharp tips, metal tips. And one of them lost, you can imagine what happened, lost one of these skis, and it came with a huge speed down the hill where we were, when I was sitting actually, I think on the sled, and hit my left knee. It was a really huge wound. And so everybody was, all the blood coming, and everybody was shocked, but Stan immediately got some textile and managed to bandage it and get me on the sled and get me home. And we used to have some very special ointment. It was from one of the natural healers who was also, he was a sculptor, very, very interesting spiritual man. And he created some particular ointment from, when you looked at it, you could see primarily the honey and the butter and things like that, but it had amazing healing effects. We never figured out what was in it. So that saved that also helped my knee. And that connects me with another story when how did it go? I think we went, played some games, and on the street that had a lot of kind of cold sand on the floor. And when I fell in one of the plays, I fell on my left face. And when I got up, of course, all the cold stuff was right. The cold dust was under my skin. So Stan managed to quickly get me home and again use this particular miraculous ointment to heal me. The major, of course, saving action was when in 1948 there were 4 months where a window opened in the Iron Curtain, and it was possible to get out. And Stan invited me, he was in the States, and invited me to come to visit him in the States. And I loved Prague, and I never imagined that I would immigrate. Plus, it's hard to imagine. I would not believe if people told me, but after 20, 25 years in information, in isolation, you can get very, very brainwashed. And I had the idea that I would never survive in the West, based on all the communist propaganda, that I would have ended up my life just washing dishes somewhere. So I just came for a visit and assumed that I would go back. The Iron Curtain would eventually close and we would never see each other. But it worked out differently. And 52, 53 years later, we are still on the same, well, not right now, actually, but I am still on the American side of the Atlantic. We had a wonderful time in Baltimore. There's still a little bit. Oh, yes, here is the sprinkle house. So not the best picture, not the most representative picture. What really was fascinating was this Maryland Psychiatric Research Institute. Fabulous building that was built specifically for psychedelic research. And there was a wonderful group of people. I've never seen a better team. The people were spending all weekends together. They just did not have enough to just work together. They wanted and partied.
Walter Pankey, Sandy Unger, yeah.
Charles Savage.
The Richards, yeah.
And John Lilly. Wonderful group. Yeah, Bill Richards and Ilse Richards. And this was an amazing institute built specifically for their design. So my recollection is on the fourth floor, there was animal laboratories for animal experiments, animal pharmacology.
Pharmacology, yeah.
But the third floor, I think, was biochemistry of psychedelics. The second floor were wonderful, beautiful rooms just set up for the sessions, for the psychedelic sessions. And there was a lot of it, studies with addicts, alcoholics, end-of-life distress, and so on. The first floor, I think, was the offices and large lecture hall. And in the basement, there was a number of equipments that would produce non-ordinary states of consciousness naturally. So there was the medieval witch's cradle, there was isolation tank, there was
the full one, yeah.
Yeah, full one. Yeah, it was just wonderfully equipped. And unfortunately, shortly after the Nixon went after the psychedelics and things were stopped, the institute also was turned over. In 1977, 78, when I worked in Washington nearby, was invited to visit. I was so disappointed. It was in my opinion, kind of a third-class research institute for schizophrenia, which of course is a bunch of, it's a collection of problems, how you can research it. And
John Tank was in the potatoes, you know, held in the potatoes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But if somebody has a little bit of sense now and keeps in mind the renaissance of psychedelics, it would be a wonderful idea to bring it back to the original purpose for which it was wonderfully set up, and you would have a situation set up for perfect integrated research. Well, we all, Stan and I, always have a lot of fun, and I don't think I have time to really cover much of it. This is one story near Baltimore, when we, shortly after we found out that we were both sentenced in Prague, our mother wrote us, we decided that we should actually prove that we are carrying out the punishment. So we got this picture and sent it to Prague to the police, so that they know we are really being punished. We had some other funny times. This is a heaven and hell party, and one of the many parties at Stan's house in Mill Valley.
Transpersonal friends, yeah.
All kinds of transpersonal friends who have full understanding of fun and symbolism. Stan and I also were fortunate, or I was fortunate, to travel with Stan to different places. We were to New York together. We were.
This was Narsat, yeah? Was it?
Yeah.
We're not talking about it, yeah?
No, that's when I received the award. This was when Stan received the award from President Havel in Prague. But we were, since things opened up, we were there together a couple of times, I think. This is another opportunity with Stan and Brigitte when he organized the International Transpersonal Association meeting, all four of us. And I have wonderful memories. We did Sierra Nevada horseback riding, wonderful, wonderful trips. Just a few bits and pieces. And we are in China. There were some amazing synchronicities. The first synchronicity was Stan called me and said, listen, it wouldn't be, he had so many thoughts and fantasies about China. Wouldn't it be interesting to visit China? And there are all kinds of trips. I said, yes. 2 weeks ago, an invitation came to come and teach holotropic breathwork in China. It's just and the synchronicity is just considered. I think you wrote them up some, didn't you? Some the Chinese synchronicities. That was incredible. What was happening there? We were together Switzerland at his publisher. We were together in Mexico. There was a World Congress of Psychiatry, and we went together. After that, we rented a car and went to Yucatan primarily because of
an open car with our luggage. We didn't know what we were doing yet.
Oh, there were interesting things. You know what the problems are with the tourists. They stole our windshield wipers, and they came the next morning not knowing and wanted to sell it to us, not knowing that they stole it from the same car. Well, we had interesting time, of course, in the historical places in Tulum, Chichen Itza, Palenque. I have a very vivid memory of Stan going into one of the temples in Palenque and decided to go into a very deep meditation, and he started experiencing going back into the history of the place. And of course, as you know, there were all these sacrifices, bloody sacrifices. And so as in his mind, he traveled very deeply. He suddenly became convinced that he actually is not going to get life out of that he's going to be really sacrificed. And that was the reason why he came. And then he opened his eyes and noticed that he was covered with these big Mexican ants that were biting him. Poor fellow paid for that for the next 2 days, of course. So he was in a way sacrificed, but not the way the Mexicans did it. We had a wonderful time in San Francisco several times. The most memorable one was about 3 years ago. Then the University of San Francisco has arranged several days of gathering, just of celebrating Stan's life work, and that was amazing exposure of the impact that he had in all places around the world. It was just amazing. I was, of course, in his house in Mill Valley. We were together, had a wonderful time traveling around California. And we were at other places. When I saw this picture, I first was hesitating. I could not figure out where were we until I realized that this is Ottawa. Actually, this is my home.
No,
because there is No. I think
No,
Sure. Okay.
this is Ottawa.
No.
On the right-hand side, there is the International Art Center, Art National. So that's, I think, as much as I can cover. Oh, where did I go? Because I wanted to say a few things about Stan hobbies, but his friends know that well. And so I won't waste time on that. So, Stan, listen, it's been such a wonderful trip together. We are always taught to respect our elders. Now you reach the age when you don't have anybody to respect, Of course, I believe that age really is not important. I mean, I talked about the 30-year-old man being 90 and thinking back. Age only makes difference, I think, when you cheese. Otherwise, it's just 90. It's just a number. And as long as you're gonna keep surrounding yourself by these beautiful women like Brigitte, you will be young forever. I hope so. Much love. All the best.
Paul, thank you so much. I can't imagine a better brother. Thank you so much.
Well, so I think now it's Brigitte's turn to share something, right? Well, let me first properly introduce you, Brigitte. So Brigitte Grof is a psychologist, psychotherapist, and artist. Since 1986, she has studied and worked with Stan, from her first month-long at Esalen to participating in a 3-year holotropic breathwork training in Switzerland, and eventually facilitating breathwork, holotropic breathwork in Europe, as well as facilitating modules and offering trainings in Germany. She currently has a private psychotherapy practice in Wiesbaden, Germany. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly, where she offers workshops and retreats. She and Stan have been married since 2016, and they recently launched the Grof Legacy Training for working with holotropic states. So a very formal welcome to Brigitte. And I'm very much looking forward to what you're going to share with us now.
Thank you, Susan. Well, I before I start, I would like to say something. I mean, you see that these are very private stories and pictures, and I have to say, I'm very excited that we are doing this, and also have a little mixed feelings to blow this out in the world. I'm a private person, and now suddenly I'm with Stan quite in the public. So I really want to ask you out there to treat these informations and pictures with love, care, and respect, and not use them for your own purposes or anything. Just enjoy that and be with us with that attitude. We see the comments, so I see that attitude a lot. So thank you so much to be respectful with us. So. Okay, I'm trying to start, right? Supposed to share the screen. There we are. Okay, so we have decided together, we worked on this together to share with you, parts of our life together. And I have to say, speaking of age, I'm 29 years younger than Stan, but we actually feel we have the same age inside. And with Stan, I've known him for 35 years. He hasn't changed a bit. It's just the body has more problems, of course, but he's just the same person inside, and he is still as funny, as wild, and as everything as he always was. So, how do I start? Oops.
Oh God.
So here we, this
was called a divine child, one of my most beautiful psychedelic experiences.
This is your painting.
First matrix, as I call, yeah.
So I call it Buddha Baby.
Buddha Baby, yeah.
You will see the reason in a minute. I think there's some similarity. So this is Stan, the Buddha Baby, and you will see with his eyes, he already had that look, that he still has today. This excitement about life, and so the Buddha Baby. So we have known each other a long time, and at 86 I went to Esalen. I had the privilege to come to Esalen and there to participate in several month-long seminars. And this is the big house where these were happening. We lived together for a month, and it was breathwork almost every day, and amazing teachers came and were invited. It was like university, but much better. So here you see.
Recognize Ramdas and Jack Cornfield.
Yes, and Stan.
And this is the fireplace in the big house where we actually created and developed the holotropic breathwork.
Yes. So this is Stan and Christina leading the workshop. There's the fireplace in the big house.
This is where two of us developed the holotropic breathwork together.
Yes. This is, I call this picture actually Baby Rick. That's Rick when I first met him. He was very young too. We were all young. So he was teaching astrology in these month-long seminars.
Eric talked about this situation, what happened there when we started being interested in astrology and finding the connection with LSD, with psychedelics.
Mm-hmm. So this is Stan in the middle, and we were doing some exercise with the group, and Stan is always in the middle there. He's not like the teacher sitting on the chair. He's throwing himself into the action. This is Stan, a bit younger.
Some of my outfits. You see others,
Not so serious. This is more folkloristic kind of style. This is me, a little bit younger. The polka dot lady. So this is Pfeiffer Beach, the beautiful beach near Esalen in Big Sur. Very beautiful beach.
Quite amazing, yeah.
So then there was the first breathwork training ever, was in Breckenridge, Colorado in '87, and it was a gathering of a month-long training, big group of people who had already a lot of experience with the breathwork.
So we had 70 people there,
70,
and it take a whole month there.
Yes, yes.
Quite amazing, intense training,
Yes.
intensive. Yeah.
It's great. Let's Stan teaching. Here's the group.
Teaching there, and
and this was, after this, I went into the German-speaking 3-year training, and this is our certification ritual that we have. This is Stan with that blue shirt. As you have noticed, he likes shirts with patterns, Hawaiian preferably. And then in 89, I think it was, Stan asked me if I would like to go to Czechoslovakia and bring Holocaust.
I couldn't, of course, go back to Prague, to Czechoslovakia.
He couldn't go back. So he asked me to go, and I went with my friend Alexandra from Bülow and with Stan's mom, Maria. And it was a really secret activity, and we stayed with his mom, and then we went to the countryside in a little car, and the people were, came walking with backpacks and so on, and it was a farm which was an enclosed yard, so we were working in there, and this was the breathwork room. It was a stable, and you see Stan's.
You can see my mother in action.
Stan's mom in action with the gray pants, kneeling on the mattress there.
She really started learning,
She was great. I mean, it was, the people didn't speak any English, so I had to give the theory, and Stan's mom was translating, and I was very afraid if I was doing it right, but she approved. It was a wonderful, wonderful group, and I have to show you, this was our music system, the red thing there. But it worked, the people had fantastic experiences, and it was so much fun to be with Stan and Paul's mom. It was really nice.
And actually, some of these people then later became, we allowed them to come to
Esselen, to training.
To do training, and then they actually became facilitators.
Well, two are our teachers now. In the Czech Republic from the training. And so the Iron Curtain opened, and in 1992 there was actually a big ITA conference in Prague, which was amazing. So here you see Stan walking through. We had a huge breathwork. How many people were there?
We had 60 people in this.
360.
360, yeah. And this was a great gymnasium there, and it was built specifically for young communists,
So it was totally
of course,
amazing.
My mother wanted to be in there, wanted to facilitate.
There is your mother.
Of course, people cannot do.
So
if they are not training, of course, what do you do with your mother? She wouldn't be stopped.
Well, she was a natural, and so you see Stan has with the blue shirt, is leaning over the person, and Maria, the mother, is holding the person's feet. What we shouldn't do actually, but she was really great and helpful, and people loved her. She did her own breathwork workshops later.
This was one of the largest. The 360 we had the largest was in Moscow, which was 460. I think it was 70 facilitated.
Well, so when we have a big group, it's divided in small groups with facilitators, so everybody's really covered. They're just like together in the big room for the breathwork, but it's like a collection of a lot of small groups in one room. And so in 2000, we visited, you and I and Rick Tarnas, we visited Hans-Rudi Giger and Carmen Giger in Zurich, the fantastic visionary artist. And
Hans-Rudi, he was, as a child, he was in a town called Hur, and they used to have annual fairs where they had things like the shooting galleries. They had the
merry-go-round,
and the large
the wheel, the big thing.
Anyway. And one, this was most important. This was the ghost ride that he very much liked. And then he created one as a child already in the neighborhood, you know, with all kinds of skulls and hanged men and so on. And then when he grew up, then he created this in his house.
Well, in the garden.
Goes right. Was going around his go and then also through the house.
Really?
And so when we came there, he took me a ride into this host ride, ghost ride, you know, with there are with a lot of fetuses all over the place, and they were very
perinatal ghost,
demonic kind of women, and there was a stuffed microphone, alligator or alligator or
alligator.
Yeah.
Okay. So look at Stan's face. I mean, he looks like a happy 3-year-old. He was so excited on this ride.
I think you saw the better than the previous one, actually.
And this is in the house of Hans Rudi, and he's actually, the whole house was like that with his paintings, and the furniture was.
This is Rick Tarnas, of course,
left,
and
Rick,
here
Carmen.
Is Carmen.
And Stan and
Hans Rudi at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And this was the furniture, you know, which was all made of bones and skeletons and so on. It was made for June for the film June. That finally was not used, unfortunately, but it's amazing kind of.
So probably you should say that he probably had an LSD session and he went into the perinatal stuff and he got stuck there. That's why he was painting all these things, right? Something like
yes,
that.
Yes.
Anyway, so this was a very rich perinatal art.
And I became very excited when I saw his first books, you know, because it was such an amazing representation of the perinatal experiences. But nobody has created anything like that. And so I finally managed to meet him, and then we became very close friends with this Carmen also. And I then worked with him and made a book about him.
Yes.
2 books, actually.
So in 2015, we had a reunion, and actually, it was very interesting because I had planned my dreams journey to go to see the whales and the dolphins in Baja California, and it turned out that you had.
At that time, I had a month of really powerful, spontaneous experiences, and a lot of related to whales and dolphins and the sounds were coming spontaneously, and I became very interested. And this is suddenly we talk on the telephone, and this is you said that that you were just about ready to go there.
So we went there together, and it's in Baja California. There are the big bays where they have the babies, and you can go in little boats, and you just wait. You don't do anything, and the mothers actually bring the babies to the people, to the humans, to the boats. And this is very moving because human beings have been treating whales quite badly, as you know, and you can't feed them, you know, and they really do this to show their babies. It's just so amazing.
One big thing was when people were able to kiss the
baby.
The baby, yeah.
So here is the baby coming through me.
My hand was before, I think.
It was your hand, yeah. Here, well, we don't see it. They say when you touch a whale, you live 10 years longer. That's the saying. So it worked so far. And this is another adventure we had. There were these dolphins. Of course, we know this, you know, is a mixed thing because this is not the ocean. This is a place where
they were taking both of us under the
but it was so beautiful to meet them, and they were so it was just so moving. And then they said, all right, they will take you for a ride underwater 1 minute. And we said, well, Stan is 84, but he said, sure, I'll do that. And so this is us under the water with the dolphins. The top one is Stan, and I'm on the left side. And this is, playing with them. So Stan is so cute. He looks so cute. I don't know who looks more cute, the dolphin or Stan. So, and then we were feeding them, and I had to hold you because you were floating with this vest. He was floating away, so I had to hold him. Well, and we like to get married. So we've had several weddings so far. The first one was a spiritual wedding in Hawaii in 2016, and this was with a kahuna and his wife. A kahuna is a Hawaiian kind of shaman. It's a beautiful ceremony.
It's big. On Hawaii, but
big island.
Big island.
Yeah. Yes. This was with our friends.
Some of our friends there. Jack
Cornfield on the right side, and then Betsy and Ricky on the left side. And also Rick was there, Rick Tarnas and Yvonne. And so actually after us, Jack and Rick got married. So we were inspiring, for the late happiness. So this was our formal wedding in Wiesbaden, Germany in 2016, 1st of April, which is not a joke. It's not a joke. It has special meaning for us that day. And also it's, do you say that with a tarot?
Carol, yeah, we had, if you put down the numbers, of your birth, then you get a card, and most of us got the emperor and
the fool.
Joke, and the fool.
But so it's the Fool's Day, the 1st of April. But the Fool in the tarot is not an idiot or something. It's a very powerful card.
Moving with our fears for death and birth and death. Yeah.
Yes.
This was N.G. Arian to interpret it. Yeah. And this is my really favorite photograph with Paul. And, yeah.
Well, he was your witness, yes, and my sister was my witness. I love that photo. You're both so beautiful, so much love and connection. So this is another wedding. It's obviously not the official wedding in Wiesbaden. Now we are on Easter Island. And
we asked, that we would like to have wedding, and we asked the shaman there. And so we gave some money, and he bought food and some drinking, and then they brought people from around, from
the village,
and they, eat and drink, and the dances for everybody. It was fantastic.
Well, and the ritual.
And the shaman was asking me and says, "What kind of outfit would you like? Would you like a tourist?" I said, "No, I would like the real native." And so this is what I ended up. And when Regina ended up, she got little
coconut shells.
Coconuts on her
for the bikini.
And my stuff is very, very barely was holding together, as you can see.
The problem was that it was very, very cold there. I mean, we were scared that Stan would get pneumonia and die from this. But it was amazing, and they gave us this bird in the hand, and it was really amazing. And that was our last spiritual wedding. That was in Peru. That was our Inca.
Very, very close friends, were facilitators, of course. And we have been on several of the trips, you know, all over South America. And so
Javier and Paula.
There's Javier and Paula. They
Yes.
actually decided to get married here, and we joined them also.
Yes.
And there's Vicky also. No?
The Keros shamans, these two on the left side, they're very little. This woman was super little, and they came from 5,000 meters down to us to make that.
The whole village lived there, you know, the whole year.
To do this ceremony. It was really very, very beautiful.
Amazing.
So we did a lot of travels and seminars. So the first one we did was actually we went to China together, and
usually combine work and tourists.
Yeah.
So here, when our friends saw this kind of possibility, they all thought, I suppose, that we should do it. So.
There was this, you know, tourist thing where you could get these costumes and get a photo. So we went there. Emperor and Empress. This is here with Rick Tarnas.
Rick Tarnas with us.
He was there with you. You and Rick, you gave the
combining holotropic breathwork and astrology.
Cosmos and Psyche.
Astrology.
You work with the teaching with him in that course.
Very amazing, yeah.
So this was our group. And we actually had a funny story in China. The teacher is like a god, and male teacher is the super god, and we had to go up to that room. It was a big communist building, everything red and gold, and there was a big elevator, and we had to go up in the second floor, and there were all these ladies in the elevator, and Stan and I, and the elevator stopped, and they didn't want to go before the teacher, so they pointed to the door and they said, teacher, you know. And Stan is a gentleman from Prague, you know, from a European educated time, and for him it's always ladies first. So he said, ladies first. And they said again, you know, teacher, and he said, ladies first. So this went on for a couple of minutes. Nothing moved, you know, door was closing again. So eventually I said, all right, you please understand, he's from Europe, he's ladies first, he will never leave the elevator, we cannot do the seminar, please go. And so they left, so it was really sweet. And then we went to Prague together, and this is very beautiful in spring. So this is the famous...
That's an astrological clock, we call it Orlog.
Beautiful.
When at the time when the person was born, you can read the chart, you know, from this, and also every hour they were apostles moving around, and some other figures, you know, the Everest and skeleton, and so it's a very beautiful thing. It's 600 years.
Wow. Well, here you are. You want to say where you are?
Yeah, this is the clinic where I was as a student. You know, I was studying psychiatry there, and I also had my first psychedelic session there.
Well,
this is our house where we were born in Prague, when we were. Living in Prague, we came to Prague, and at the time when it was built, it was one of the most beautiful building there, and this is what happened, you know, in combination with his communists, and you know, taking care of it, and then also people all around that took chances for the painting there. So.
Well, and then we went to Iceland for your 85th birthday, huh? And this was actually I had seen a movie that is called Iceland from Above, like a film from a plane, you know. And so I decided to give Stan for his 85th birthday the gift of flying with a little airplane over Iceland. And
you kind of give gifts that. are really something for me, not necessarily for you. And
Yes.
and also you brought me Wagner for
Wagner, I gave you, yes.
and then you decided to take this trip around
Yes.
Iceland. And
Well, I'm
this
actually
was at the time you were pretty concerned about flying.
well, I'm actually scared of flying. And anyway, I didn't know how it would be in this small plane if I could stand it. And so we went, you know, to this there was this airplane. It was like size of a mosquito, about 2 seats for us and the pilot in front. And we entered that plane, and I was sitting behind the pilot, and the pilot, he was sitting on the seat, and suddenly the seat broke down, and the seat and the pilot fell into my lap.
This is the house, you know.
And
How old is it?
I said, how old is the airplane? So we had to drive back and fix the seat. And then I said, well, maybe this is the last day of our life, you know, let's take the chances. And actually it turned out to be a very, very beautiful experience because you're not very high. You're like really, you know, you can touch the mountains, and he could also say, oh, there is some rain, let's fly over there. I mean, there's no
storm around,
there's
and
no
we could
traffic.
just choose to go around.
Yeah. And it was, I really
amazing.
got very excited about it. So
Amazing colors
Yes.
of the rocks, you know.
yeah, it's like
Amazing.
the rivers are really like arteries. It's very beautiful. This was at the geyser, standing trench coat. Well, this is us as Vikings.
Clowning.
You look good. So we had 6 days of rain, and then the last day the sun came out, and we could see how beautiful it is there. That was also when we took the flight in the afternoon. And then we went in 2016, we went to South America, the Atacama Desert, also a very beautiful place. And we went to Easter Island. Amazing. It's a 5-hour flight to the left from Chile. Yeah, it's really out there in the Pacific. And
I always saw, you know, so the line of which are amazing already, but I thought there were maybe 25, 30 of them, and then I was surprised. It's all over this island, and way up anywhere where you know you can't possibly get there with these kind of big pieces of
impressive
sculptures. Yeah.
And then actually Susan organized this wonderful event for this total solar eclipse in Oregon in August 2017. So we went there, and you know, had a beautiful gathering, and there were shamans and drumming, and here you see my sweetheart.
The mushrooms around.
He's very tranced on this one. He's having some fun. It was a very powerful and beautiful event, wasn't it? Thank you, Susan, again.
My pleasure. It was wonderful.
It was great. Of course, and we love to go to Big Sur. This is like our home, and it's such a beautiful place, very powerful place too, and very challenging place. Fires and landslides and earthquakes, whatever. But it's just so gorgeous. This is from the Highway 1.
Really dangerous there. Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Between the fire and the...
So this is where I took this photo of my sweetheart. And the most beautiful, I think. And in 2017, 25 years later, from the first conference in Prague, there was another ITA conference in Prague, and that's where we went. That's the photo we've seen before.
Erwin Laszlo and Maria.
Psyche, yes. Mm-hmm. And we were actually both giving a talk on art, on our art, Stan and I. And so Stan is introducing me for my talk here. And this is Stan giving his talk, and you see his painting on the slide. That's nice. And there was also exhibition.
Exhibition, yeah. With wonderful friends again. Martina
Hoffman
and
Alex Gray. Alex Gray on the left side, both very famous visionary artists. And this we've seen that too. Paul and Mary.
Marika. Yeah.
Yes, and then we went 2018 to Argentina and Peru with Javier and Vicky. So this is Stan teaching. We were always having a lot of fun with these guys.
Wonderful friends.
Wonderful friends.
Great combination of doing work and a lot of fun.
They always provide everything. So Stan is happy. Good food and everything else. So we're always in adventures. So it's really great, and we laugh a lot. So and that was at the end of the group with all the mandalas around.
This is the group in
Argentina. It's so nice. In South America, people are so sweet. There's just a lot of hugging and kissing, and so we heard, like in Colombia, if you don't hug and kiss strangers, they feel offended. If
you meet them for the first time, don't give them a hug.
Don't give them the hand. You have to hug them and kiss them.
That was still before
that was before COVID. Yeah, that's also of course presenting the problems now that the people shouldn't do it. It's so against the nature, right? So this was in Peru. And we went to Machu Picchu adventure. It was a beautiful place too, very powerful place. And there was like the clouds were just lifting up, It's just very magical. And then we were in...
this was the 27th anniversary of discovery of LSD.
In Basel, yeah. So this is Stan. So this is actually our friends who made the books are also organizing this event. So we had a workshop there. We had a big breathwork, and Stan was giving talk. So this is the crowd. These are our friends, yeah.
These are the ones who made this.
Who made the book? Yes.
Yeah.
It's, Jutta and Markus Berger from the left side, and Roger Wiegensdorfer and Chris Heydrich, his wife, me and Stan, and then we have Christian Reitsch and
amazing
the botanist. Yes.
Claudia.
And here we have Carmen Giger and me and Stan.
So at that time just was this great exhibition. So Carmen was taken.
We went there. And these paintings, can you say how he made these paintings? Amazing.
Yeah, well, it's very gigantic paintings. And he was doing it so that he did not know what he wanted to do, and he started at the time he had the brush,
the airbrush,
and started in the upper left
corner,
and he didn't know what was happening,
what was
channeling it, and then this incredible symmetrical paintings were coming out of it,
like this one, for instance. Amazing. So, and this was actually in May 2018. Paul had mentioned that it was an honorary PhD that Stan got in CIIS, Institute of Integral Studies.
So I loved it that it was specifically for psychedelics,
Yeah, you can see here, psychedelic therapy and healing arts. Honorary PhD. I think it's your fourth honorary PhD. Yeah? You have a couple of others. But it's especially for psychedelics, this one. It's great. And then that was amazing. I mean, after having met at Hessel in 86, coming back, being married and leading a workshop there was just incredible. I mean, we never would have imagined this would happen in life. That's such a miracle. And it's actually a combination with our colleagues, Will Keepin and Cynthia Briggs, and of gender reconciliation and holotropic breathwork. So we were there with Diane Haug, Diane leading the breathwork, and Will and Cynthia, and team, of course, our teams, the gender reconciliation, and that's amazing work. I mean,
and Will in St. Pierre do great work with holotropic breathwork, combining it with psychology,
and also
ecology,
also in Africa and so on. Yeah, they do
Africa and India and other places.
The workshop was a little intense because it was actually, each method by itself is a full workshop. So that was kind of squeezed into one workshop.
That's very, very powerful.
It was
the combination was incredible.
Yeah, but
gender affiliation.
It's amazing. So it was fantastic. And it was actually so there's always these Wednesday nights in Huxley in that hall. And so
this was the first screening actually ever in Esalen. Of
the Psychonaut film at Esalen. It was really very moving. Yeah, and then also in 2018 was when you had the stroke, in August.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed our life quite a bit. You couldn't give talks.
Unfortunately, it didn't have to happen. That's what I really
it was a mistake from the doctors because we had planned a back operation and they took away your blood thinners without substitute. No, I didn't know that you were endangered for stroke, and so that really was a medical mistake. And but we were still lucky, and you're not paralyzed, and your mind is very clear. But it's just the speech that does, the casual conversations work, but you cannot give talks anymore at all. And so that was actually a very hard situation because there was this big launch with about 750 people.
760 people they're coming for the launch. And this was really painful for me. I actually managed to write the talk. At that point I was already able to work with the computer. But I really couldn't talk about it because I was mentoring different languages. And so I finally had to ask Rick Tarnas to read my own.
That was very hard for you to let that go. I mean, imagine Stan, I would like in Germany or so, I would drive him. There was a weekend theory seminar, 2 days. And in the car, he said, well, what is the topic I'm talking about this weekend? In German, 2 full days. And it was and then he couldn't even read a couple of pages of what he wanted to say, So it's so hard. But you're taking it so well. You're such a sweetheart. You're in good sports. So that was the Psychonaut in English. There we go, Susan.
And we spent some time. This is Susan, of course, coming, and we were working on that.
Many hours. And I have to say, Susan, you are so amazing. I mean, you really wanted to do everything right and show things right and how Stan is and what he did and really you just were so much in service.
Then quite a few sessions you did yourself. Not just sort of reading about it, and then also the people who are in the movie, you were bringing them an interview, for hour and a half, and reading, unbelievable. We believe that you should get Ph.D. for that film,
I have to say, Brigitte, thank you for those really kind words, but working with you, Stan, was it gave me such courage to do the really deep work. And probably over the course of the 7 years that we've been working together, I had about 17 high dose sessions with a variety of different substances. And then also breathwork, 6 breathwork sessions. And that deep work allowed me to change my life in a really dramatic way and see what we're facing a little bit differently with less fear. And then Brigitte, your participation in the documentary in terms of accuracy, your long experience with Stan's approach was also very helpful. So anyway, I'll stop talking and let you continue.
Susan, I also know that you fell in love with the Triyantra in the background.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's my altar.
I was in Tibet and then got it on the way back.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, and this is all painted, also hand painted. You know, when it came, it was like a roll, and you can see actually that we're testing the painter that we're testing. You know, all the colors on it in the background. So it's not, you know, it's not some kind of a
print. Yeah.
Not a print. This is
it's beautiful. It really holds sort of the mystery of this, you know, divine reality that's possible in the physical dimension. It's amazing.
Well, thank you again for everything that you have done here.
So that's it was the movie. So, and then we decided we want to go for a private adventure, and we have never been to Africa, both of us. So we said, let's go to Africa, and you know.
Also, when we were doing the ITA conferences all over the world, I always wanted to do one in Africa, you know. And actually, I was invited in San Francisco with a group of transpersonal, Black transpersonal psychologists. And then at a certain point, they asked me, you know, Stan, how do you always bringing together between East and West? What about North and South? And I said at that point, you know, you talk about Hinduism or Buddhism or Taoism. It's very nicely sort of describing. But in Africa, it seems there are a lot of these tribal. It's very difficult to make it, you know, very distinct spiritual. And they made a big mistake because there was a wonderful mythologist who said that's not true. You know, knows that there is also a center where you have the main archetypes out of which, and then other archetypes are developed from it. You know. So I still have a fantasy. Sometimes I would like to do one ITA conference in Africa. You know.
We'll see.
We fell in Africa, of course.
We fell in love with Africa, I have to say. I mean, we went to South Africa because it was, you know, sounded more safer, and we couldn't do the really totally wild stuff because of the stroke, and so we went. But the funny thing was that Stan, you didn't know if he could take the ride in these cars because the roads are, you know, they're not paved, and
my bag,
with the bag, and of course he would sit with the driver in the front and not up, you know. But actually, what happened? It was good for his back because there were these little ripples. There were these ripples, so the car was doing like this. So you were actually doing great with your back. And it was great. The safaris were so amazing. I mean, the animals. It was really very, very touching to see them. It's really a wonderful thing to do. We even got up early in the morning at 5 o'clock or so. And this was there was a sandstorm coming.
Sandstorm.
So we are equipped. And then we went to Mauritius to go to the beach. And what happened is that actually we went to a tour over the island, and we found out that they have a huge, big Shiva temple there.
And there's a whole village, actually, Hindu village, and wonderful temples and sculptures. You know.
And to Shiva stands our archetype. So we ended up in this Shiva temple, and we got this signature from the priest, Shiva signature on our foreheads. And then I said, well, I heard you can go there and stroke lions. Let's go. And
touching with the different animals there.
Stan is actually very adventurous, but he was getting a little hesitant. So I said, so you don't want to go? And so what did you say?
Well, I was not worried of being bitten or something, but to be stitched because of my blood.
You have blood thinners, so he's a bleeder.
It would be very difficult for me to stop blood, any kind of blood.
But so actually nothing happened, and I was holding him tight because I didn't want him to fall on the floor. I thought then they probably think he's lunch when he's lying on the floor. So that was that adventure. And actually this was like it was like a big kind of park, but the animals had lots of space. This was a sister and brother young rhino, and they were orphans. The parents were killed by the criminals for the nose, and they had, in the morning you could visit them, and then they were let out in the big wild space, and at afternoon at 4 o'clock they come home. And they want their food, and they put them at night. They keep them in these corrals, that they don't get stolen.
Very soft mouth. Yeah, you can actually basically. I can never imagine that I can sort of be feeding.
You fell in love with them, yeah, because they were so sweet. So, but I was glad.
Because usually in the films when they show, you can see the rhino sort of running like a monster and shooting, and it's a very loved, very amazing creatures.
Well, I was still happy there was a fence, I have to say, but I didn't mind the fence. And then this is one my favorite picture.
Yeah, the thing I never thought I would be able to eat,
to feed
from the mouth of the giraffe. Giraffe, yeah.
These are so funny creatures. I mean, they have a blue tongue, and you could buy there some food for them, and they would come and they would, like, with their mouth very gently touch your hand.
And they have very special cakes there for them, that they just love to do.
Totally sweet. I like Stan's face and the giraffe. They look at each other. I think that's a funny thing. And then this was, speaking of being reasonable, that was probably the most unreasonable thing we've ever done. But it was.
I always lived dangerously, but this was
crazy.
As I already mentioned, blood,
I know.
Thinner.
I know.
Of course, the
pacemaker.
And
the stroke. Anyway, so we decided to take chances because
it was 88 at this time.
Yes, it was our dream, and we went to swim with humpback whales in the Caribbean, and
actually go swimming with the whales before. We were just behind it.
Yeah. Well, and you go out on a boat with a group, 20 people, and you stay out in the ocean for 1 week. You don't go back to the land. You are like 9-10 hours away from the land and from any help of anything. So, and we didn't even know if Stan could walk on that boat, not to speak to get there. They have 2 small boats where you go out with a team and go to be with the whales. And we had the most wonderful team. They were very respectful and very knowledgeable, and so make sure we're not bothering the animals. And it's an area where they have the babies, and they rest there until the babies are big enough, and then they go. So it's important not to disturb them. And they are sort of hanging down on the ground, and then they come up to breathe, and you just wait again.
I lived in Estland for 14 years, and so the gray whales were going back and forth twice. But they move very fast, like 20 kilometers, in an hour. So I couldn't imagine when people were saying that we're going to go swim with them. Mm-hmm. And this is a trick that very few people know. Then there's a certain place where the mothers are getting babies. Mm. And they hang in there for a while. And at that time, when it's happening, they actually, for some reason, had to go down to the bottom for 20 to 30 minutes, yeah. And so you have to find out where they are and what the people do in that where you go there and just find where they are and you wait, and they just sort of, you know, come like a torpedo sort of out between us. And we had very, very close connection with them.
Well, that is me. And the whale just came up beyond, under me, you know. I wasn't sure if I would be sitting on the fin.
I know you were very careful. You said, you know, you want just go yourself and see what happens, and you don't go next time. And you came back and said,
one came very close. He came very close, and I said, "I'm so glad, Stan, you were not there." And so we went in the next time, and it happened again. It just came like
closer, yeah.
And I mean, these guys have the size of a house, and the baby has the size of a garage. So you can get a little bit of sense of what you're dealing with. I mean, they are very peaceful, but still, it's a big animal.
That's a very, yeah.
This is Stan.
You can see again that
Muktananda ring. That's
Swami Muktananda, yeah.
It's me and you, the whale coming up. Anyway, so this is about a celebration with our friends. So we visited our friends and celebrated. So this is actually a photo we had with Jack Kornfield, me and Stan 30 years ago. We were doing all these insight and opening retreats with Vipassana meditation and breathwork in Switzerland. And now this is 30 years later, same guys, a little older. In California, and
this was very beautiful.
This is Ramdas. We visited him in Maui, and they always took him swimming. He was totally dependent on help because he had a really bad stroke.
He had great friends, you know, who once a week, you know, they would take them. I think about 20
people
meters away, you know, where there was very shallow
the ocean.
So, and he had a
swimming chair kind of thing.
One, you know, with this big wall,
inflatable arms,
a big club, you know, one club, and he would come and sort of go around and you know play with those that club, and the bases were coming, people were coming and bringing beautiful flowers and throwing it around, and he just with a ball there.
So this is Sandy and Michael Harner in their house. We visited. Again.
Last visit, yeah.
This is Rick Tarnas. First visit with Rick after a long time. We were very happy, as you see. And we had a wedding party in California with our friends. There's
Becky.
Jack Kornfield at our friend Betsy's house. Oops. This is Michael Harner and our friend Ricky Coddington. This is Jack Coddington, Ralph Metzner.
Ralph there and
Rick Tarnas and Kathy Coleman, the wife of Ralph.
Unfortunately, some of these people passed away, even during the movie.
Here you see Jack Kornfield, Bo, Legendra, and Ralph Metzner.
And Bo,
Ralph Metzner and Kathy. This is our friend Betsy with the green blouse.
With wonderful friends.
So this is the famous toast from the movie, right, Susan? It's a toast for our wedding, and Ralph was saying,
yeah.
It's never too late, right? That's what he said. This is Ralph and Michael Harner. So this is us in Fridtjof Capra and Betsy.
And this is Rick Dobling coming to see us in Mill Valley, in our house.
Now we come to costume parties. You've seen a little taste from Paul. The halos, the angels, and well, this is Stan, of course. And we thought in the first party, we said, it's just costume party. What should we wear? And I said, well, you know, most Americans think that Germans are all Bavarians, which we are not. So we dressed up as Bavarians. And I think...
Actually, in one of my LSD sessions, you know, I had the experience that I was a Bavarian. And it was like an inn of some kind. And with the Redlanders, the Lacklanders, you know, the swimming. I mean,
dancing.
And I had the experience of dying and falling on the floor, and you know, all this.
Okay, here we are. This is Jack Cornfield and his wife Trudy Goodman. And Jack is like is dressed like Gandhi, but I think he didn't really look like costume. It felt so natural to see him that way. So, and this is Sandy and Michael Harner. Ralph Metzner and Stan. Ralph and Stan. This is us and Betsy. We are penguins, as you can see. This is Susan.
Susan.
You were like...
was one of us.
What are you, a bumblebee, or what is this called?
A bumblebee, yes.
Bumblebee. I think you look it suits you very well. You should wear this more often. This is us with Rick and Yvonne, Rick Tarnas and Yvonne, his wife.
This was Noah's, yeah.
Oh, this was the party was called Noah's Ark.
Noah's Ark.
So we were all animals on Noah's Ark. That's what's the Noah's Ark. Now we had a theme, yeah. We switched to themes. So this was Stan and Paul. You came visit after the stroke. So visit with Stan. So this is and Rick Tarnas. You were watching some talks in your valley in the house. See, Paul, I really think this was the visit in California. Somebody wrote in the chat, it was Greenbrae. We were there. I think that photo was from there. See, this is in Greenbrae. I'm sure, pretty sure it's not Ottawa. We were going to the
stroke. I think it's in the valley.
Yeah. So again, the brothers, here they are. Well, and then, you know, the COVID started and we had to change our adventures a little bit to our home in Germany. So this is us in the COVID mode with our masks. And we used that time to launch our new training, the Grof Legacy Training for working with holotropic states of consciousness. We launched that last year in May. And here we are signing certificates for our teachers.
We actually several days ago, we got our first certificates from South America, yeah.
The first certified people in South America. So this was our, you know, our adventure in the garden.
Not quite swimming with whales.
This is not swimming with whales. This was Stan's birthday last year. And this is you.
I love mushrooms, of course.
Stan is hunting for mushrooms. We were a bit late, so we found one. Well, we ate it with eggs. So I have a couple of photos of my beautiful sweetheart I want to share with you. Again, here, you see him. He was already beautiful as a baby, very excited about life and curious. This is another beautiful one. This is in
our famous place again in Nepenthe in Big Sur.
This is a drift.
Phoenix again.
Made of driftwood from the ocean. So this, you said I should show that you're also a funny person, not just a serious scientist. So here's the proof you are a funny person. For those who haven't known that so far. And here again, this is what Paul also mentioned. This everybody who knows Stan knows that he loves food. So this is a special treat of lobster in Greece. So this is
this was a major conflict, which was finishing this incredible lobster, going and see the moon. And
we wanted to go up to a place and watch the sunset and the moon rising, and that it was getting into conflict with the lobster, you know, and so we couldn't go see the sunset. I mean, the lobster was winning. So this is in Peru.
living for the shaman.
Okay.
This is nobody believes that it's me. Yeah?
That you were painted for the wedding.
Easter
Yes.
Island. Yeah.
Suits you well. I mean, you look like a natural with this. You should wear this more often too. That was a China picture, beautiful one. And this is actually, somebody gave you that T-shirt a long time ago. So I love the T-shirt. It says Stan is love. Stan is love. So it's actually Stanislav, and his name is Stanislav. So that's the play of words on that T-shirt. And it's true, you are love. You are love. So I think this T-shirt is very right. Again, the favorite. All right, so
Thank you so much.
happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
And again, I still cannot get over this, Paul and Brigitte, drawn this.
Listen, you love this book. He's just in love with this book. So
I'm lucky now. I'm very, very happy to go and be able to read in it. I haven't really touched very much of it.
Well,
thank you so much for your patience. This has been a long ride, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you like to celebrate birthday with us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining, and thank you so much for Paul for being so wonderful, and thank you for supporting the book. This has been, without you, we couldn't have done it, and this is so amazing. And thank you, Susan, for everything you've done and pulling this together every month. And thank you so much, Jim, for making that possible, and Rick for the technology. And thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brigitte. What a beautiful sharing. So many memories, so many lovely things to think about and reflect on. It's been, and happy birthday, Stan.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Shall we sing? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Stan.
Happy birthday to you. Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stan.
And Jim, once more, all you have done, from the first major places in San Francisco, and now what you are doing all over the world, it's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
And of course, that's what you have now done for me in this 6 months. It's just incredible to be able for me to see, a lot of my great friends whom I met all over the time and all over the world.
Yeah. Susan, do you want to say anything just to wrap up as really the convener of this?
Well, a huge thank you again, Jim. And Stan, these past 6 sessions leading up to your birthday, I was so impressed with the people that have come into your life during the 60 years of your career, and the things that were inspired as a result of your exchanges and collaborations, and the gift that you gave humanity, not just through your work with holotropic states and your exploration of psychedelics as a means for accessing them, and also breathwork, but the space you created at Esalen that allowed people to deeply explore and share their ideas in an environment where they weren't judged or shut down because they were outside of the existing paradigm. So, you know, it's just a tremendous gift you've given the world. And I have been so blessed to have had this direct interaction with you. And in telling your story, I just learned so much more. And Jim, it's just been an amazing opportunity to watch Stan interact with these visionaries over the course of these sessions. And that's why I invite everybody to go to thewayofthepsychonaut.com and click on the links to watch these past sessions that are part of Humanity Rising's offerings into the 200 sessions. I think all of the numbers are in the 200s. This is how many days this has been going on. So anyway, many, many thanks to you, Jim, and especially to you, Stan and Brigitte. I have so much love and gratitude to you all. And of course, Paul was wonderful.
Estalen was real paradise, you know. Normally we had to go to conferences somewhere, you know, and sit there and be careful what we can say and so on. Whereas here we were all saying in the big house, you know, with the big pillows and so on. And people said what they wanted to say. We really knew what was happening. And then when it finished, we were all, you know, in the
bath naked, sit naked, in the bath, you know, naked.
Then continued talking about the transpersonal psychology.
This brought back memories of what we called hot tub diplomacy. You strip people down to their knickers, man, and put them in a hot tub, and all kinds of wonderful things begin to happen. So, well, Stan, Brigitte, Susan, Paul, thank you all so much. And you know what's coming to me, Stan, is a term from Paul Tillich, the theologian in the 1950s and the 1960s, who said that, you know, the basic category of the authentic life is to have the courage to be. And, you know, Paul, when you were showing the pictures and telling the stories of your boyhood together, and Brigitte, as you were showing the pictures and telling the story of the more recent decades, Stan, your authenticity has been fiercely present from those first photos of when you were a baby. And I think that's given us a lesson, everyone, that to be truly authentic in who we are destined to be, you have to have the courage to be. You have to be willing to question authority, as Stan did in the face of the police and the communist regime back in the communist days in Czechoslovakia. You have to have the courage to take LSD when there was so much controversy, and delve into it with all your might and main to explore that frontier. You have to have the courage to be when they make LSD illegal. And most of the researchers went home, but not Stan. He developed a holotropic breathwork that attained those states of altered consciousness by other means. And every step along the way, there has been a embodiment, I would say, Stan, of a courage that has enabled you to stay for 60 years on the frontiers of consciousness. And that's why I think the ultimate accolade for your life is that you've personified the voyage of a psychonaut into the furthest reaches of the depth of who we are as human. And I would just add, you know, the way you and Brigitte love each other is just so fiercely authentic that it is inspiring all of us. So I just want to honor you. I love you. I love you both. Susan, I'm in awe of your capacity to just put it all together month after month. And what we're seeing in this life is everything we all need to be to save humanity from itself during this critical hour. And so thank you, Stan. It's been an honor and a privilege to salute you on your 90th.
Thank you too much. It's amazing. In the 1960s, you know, so many wonderful people, and it was, the whole thing was not individuals, but we were really working together in all the amazing conferences and so on all over the world, and extending our books and you know, experiences and so on. This was just amazing time.
I remember I've read most of Stan's books, and I would wait for his next book to give me counsel as to how to think about the future. And that's a tribute to your persistent innovation and creativity. So thank you. All right, everyone.
Thank you all.
We've gone a full 2 hours today. This has been a wonderful celebration on July 1, 2021, the 90th birthday of Stan Grof. Bye, everyone. We'll see you again tomorrow
Jim.
on Humanity Rising.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Happy birthday.
Right.